Okay, crew, welcome to our Goals and Vision webinar. So the intention for today, seeing it is, of course, the start of a new year, a great opportunity for us to take stock of what's happened in the year prior, but also to set our intention moving forward. When it comes to New Year's resolutions, they can be very much problematic because quite often we set these goals but fundamentally, we're the same person that we were in previous years. So the issue with that is that we're not really changing any of our deep core beliefs or any of our behaviours, and we're not really practicing the daily things that need to be in place to actually allow us to get to where we want to get to. So kickstarting this year for me, doing a lot of deep reflection onto, look, somebody's going to join us. Admit. Hey, Sadia, welcome to our webinar. Feel free to just leave a message in the chat box just to let me know that you can hear me. But otherwise, you can just leave your mic off. Leave your mic off. We are going to be doing a little bit of sharing along the way. So I've literally just started. I'm just setting the scene. So New Year's resolutions, very problematic. So it's about, for me, going, what will actually help me to get closer to where I want to get to this year. And after doing a lot of deep reflection, something that I think has really served me a lot in the past is actually approaching the year going, how can I actually be looking after myself better? And that could be looking after yourself in lots of different ways, but it kind of comes down to one word, and that one word is self-compassion. And self-compassion means lots of things to lots of different people. Sometimes it can be misconstrued as, letting yourself get off the hook, or giving yourself an excuse not to action the things that you know are important. But sometimes it is about actually doing more and being better organised and putting more structures in place. And sometimes it's the complete opposite, which is doing less, protecting your space more, and really looking internally to go, how can I make sure that I'm looking after myself better? Because then that will overflow onto and into lots of other areas in your whole life. So this is something that I think the more and more I lean into this idea, the better my own personal results become, both personally and also professionally. So in the chat box, maybe let's just start with like something really positive, and we'll make sure everyone's chat box is actually working, and I'm good at looking at it as well. Comment on one thing that has gone right for you since the start of the year. So something really positive that you can share. And I guess one thing that has really drawn you to click on today to go, you know what, I might actually join Ange online on a 40-degree day to chat through like where my headspace is actually at. So share that in the comment box. I know that there's only a couple of you guys on, but I think it'll be a really great way just to, as I said, I really want to make this quite practical for you guys, rather than obviously just sitting there and listening to me. So one thing that's gone right for you since the start of the year, something it could be that you're really proud of, or just in general, just how you've set up your year. Or on the flip side, what you're most looking forward to, what prompted you to click and register and jump on today. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that with the group now, that would be absolutely fantastic. And if you're listening to this back, it's really good before you start any of this deep thinking stuff to actually start with a really positive mindset. So what's gone right for you since the start of the year, and what you want to get out of today's session as well. Yes, love that. So Lucy says, allowing time for deep reflection on the past year to set me up for the year ahead. Yeah, love that. Yeah, personally for me, I'm getting away for the last couple of weeks, even though I was, doing a little bit of work here and there. It allowed me to really think and change the way I want to set up this year so that I'm, I guess, able to start the year a little bit more on the attack and offense rather than defense. And what do you want to get out of the session, Luce? It could be just clarity. It could just be a little bit of time. It could be just hanging out with me. whatever comes to mind. And same for you, Sadie, I'd love to hear. Cool. So I'll let you guys continue to, type in your response. So Sadie says, good thing, changing my diet to include enough protein for the needs and finally put on some muscle mass. Woohoo! And hoping to keep it up. Yeah. So that's fantastic. Yeah, really, I mean, changing the protein intake is just such a powerful, like the one thing I think that really transforms someone's nutrition. So that's great. All right, let's continue moving along here, guys. So just out of that. Okay, so talking about self-compassion, let's maybe just back up the track. My plan for today's webinar is that we'll spend a little bit of time continuing to set the scene on some of this stuff. And then we're going to be doing a lot of workshops, like questions for you to sit down and make some notes on. So if you've got a pen and paper, make sure you've got it handy. And then the last thing I'm going to finish up with is actually creating a vision board for the year. And we are going to take a little bit of a hack. If you've done any vision boarding before, you may have done it where it's like magazine cutouts and pictures that you've like pre-prepared. It's a really beautiful way to do a vision board, but it is quite time consuming. So the way I'm going to show you to do your vision board today, it should be really, really quick. I think once I did all the prep work for my own personal vision board, it actually came together in probably 10 to 15 minutes, which I can still finesse a lot more on the design and the layout and probably the wording. But the intention of today is to set you up so that you can create a really clear vision board for yourself moving forward. All right, so let's continue setting the scene. So self-compassion, as I said, it's got two polar sides and it's very similar to a yin and yang. And yin and yang has the masculine and it has the feminine, where if you've come across yin and yang before, you probably have heard of it in the capacity that possibly your own personality traits sit in one or the other. But the idea is that it's balance, and to have a balanced life, you've got to have a bit of both. And as soon as you start to get out of balance where you might be operating more from one side or the other, that's generally when you're not operating at a place where you can be thriving. And where this links back into your own personal goals is that to get the results that you want, you've got to have the mindset to be able to actually action them, and you've got to have the space and freedom in your mind and in your life to be able to actually action them as well. The second you start to self-doubt yourself, fall into a pity party, start to let yourself, stop actioning the important things that you've got to get done in the day because you've lost focus or you're self-sabotaging, that's when we start to see that we stop doing the things that we should be doing. So the idea is that if you're able to recognize when you start to fall out of balance, you can catch yourself a lot sooner. You can right the ship and then you can keep moving forward. And the idea is that hopefully you'll get to your end goal a lot faster because you'll have not veered off course as many times. So yin and yang, the yang is about acting in the world. So a lot of it is about striving. It's a lot about doing. It's about action. It's about problem solving. It's about strategizing, it's about organizing, it's about to-do lists. It's things that you would see, implementing if you're like, I am going to do. And as I said, some people have a natural tendency to operate out of this space, and it's actually considered more of a masculine energy. Not to say that you are more man or more female, but this masculine energy is generally more about the procedural way of doing things versus the yin side, which is about actually just being. And it's about comforting, it's about soothing, it's about validating. So it's about showing up and being vulnerable. It's about allowing yourself to let other people help you. It's about giving and receiving love. So using my own personal experience in this space is I am very much all yang. Growing up as the youngest child, I was very independent, very much self-motivated, very much a go-getter and a doer. However, while that's super positive, it's put me in a really good place to hit some great milestones. It sometimes leaves me in a place where I am not really feeling like my best self, and at least it leads me to a place of burnout, being stressed and overwhelmed. So the more I can balance it out with more yin stuff, it actually puts me in a much better place to thrive. And I've certainly experienced that over the last few years, where the more I've went into the yin, the better my results have actually become. The more I've actually opened up to people, opened up to my friends, opened up to my employees, opened up to my husband, the more I've actually felt like I could actually do a lot more and probably accomplish a lot more as well. So this idea is something that I want you to sort of start to ruminate on, and see where, and you might go, you know what, Ange, I'm actually a really balanced whole person. And that is absolutely fantastic. The idea is that we all get to that place. But when things don't go according to plan and things start to happen where you maybe are not so proud of, or things that you like, I dropped the ball on this, or you just didn't feel like it was a place where you were thriving, was it that you needed more yang, or was it that you needed more yin? Okay. So having a little bit of a think about last year, and maybe think about like the things that you are really proud of that you accomplished last year, the things that you go, you know what, I did this and that's awesome. But I want you to maybe think about the things that you didn't quite tick off your list last year, or the things that maybe the goals that you've got for this year that maybe are the same goals that you had for last year. And I want you to think about maybe what are some of the barriers or the things that actually stopped you from being able to reach those goals fully, okay? And feel free to share these in the chat box if you like. So what was the barriers and what stopped you from achieving the goals that you, that ultimately that you had on your list that might be still on your list for this year? So feel free to share them in the chat box. And I guess have a little bit of a think. If you don't want to share them in the chat box, that's also more than fine. In your notebook, write down what were some of the barriers that you think ultimately held you back. And sometimes being held back might be a bit more of maybe a drastic term of phrase, but it could just be, where were like the blocks for you last year? So one major barrier is letting one bad day stop the motivation or appreciation on the good days. Yeah, that's a fantastic realization. And that really leads into mindset, barriers, work stress, too much on, mind frame. Yeah, love that. And yeah, for me personally, I think, you know, last year was a big emotional year for me. I had a baby, so you've got all the emotions that go with having a baby, a sick parent, those things. So actually just being able to protect and look after myself and nurture myself was probably one thing that I want to continue to carry on to this year and really build some really solid habits so that I can really be making sure that I'm in a good place. So let's start thinking about the year ahead. And I want you to start to think about, what are your goals? Okay. And actually, you know what, let's just park the goals for just a moment. Let's go back to thinking about our barriers, or just thinking about like the same, think about the things that you know that are continuing to pop up for you, okay? And let's do a little bit more work on this yin and yang aspect. And the reason why is because the way that we're going to be building our vision board is really going to be tying some of these in, okay? So as I said, you might already know that on one side, you know you're going to have more things to write where you feel like you're out of balance, okay? So let's start with the yin and self-compassion. So this is about comforting. So what do you feel that you can do more of this year to take care of your emotional needs? All right, as I said, you can write this, you can create this, like make your own little notes in your own journal. And I might go through my examples as, oh, do I have my examples? I thought I did include my examples. Maybe I didn't. Where did I write them? I do remember what I wrote. So for me, this emotional needs, for me, a lot of this was around sleep, okay, and being able to comfort myself by making sure that I was getting enough sleep, and also the act of journaling as well, to be able to really be clear on what my emotions were for that day and what I actually needed more or less of. The next one in the yin self-compassion is soothing. So what can you do to make yourself feel physically calmer? So these are things that, you know when you start to get that stress, that overwhelm. For Sadia, it could be like where, that those bad days start to cloud the good days. What do you feel would help you to be able to help switch that mindset? And for Luce, when you're feeling like you've got so much on your plate and overwhelmed, what do you think you could do more of to help yourself feel physically calm? So for me, it's about like stopping, taking 10 really deep breaths, making sure that I am only setting a goal each day of getting 3 critical things done per day, so that I'm not there getting really overwhelmed that I'm not getting enough done in my day. Validating is, what can you say to yourself to help validate your own feelings? So again, for me, a lot of this was around really solidifying a daily journaling practice, where I started off with affirmations to really be clear on the direction I was going, visualization and gratitude. So practicing like what I'm grateful for, as well as I said, just recognizing if I was going through a hard time, being like, okay, well, that's to be expected. However, I am grateful for, or affirmations, I am strong, or I can do this, I can do hard things. And then flipping it over into the yang side, the self-compassion. So this is about protecting. So what can I do to stop others hurting me or stop the harm I inflict on myself? Now, harm, again, it's one of those harsh words, but this could be protecting your own space, protecting your time, protecting your energy. So what do you feel like you could do more of? So for me, it's possibly about creating better boundaries, both with like my husband, to be like, I actually need this time, and I need this time regularly to be able to look after myself, to do whatever it is. So something that I implemented last year was I took out a surfing membership at Urban Surf, and it was about being diligent enough to say to Jez, I'm gone for the next 2 hours, and here are the kids, and see you later. And that was, it is yang because it's me doing, but it was me being really clear on those boundaries. Providing what can I do, what I do to give myself what I need. So sometimes this is about taking action and it could be about buying your actual protein, like really making sure that you take action to make sure that you're providing yourself with the ingredients to be able to prep high protein meals. Or it could be about reaching out to your coaches to get more support, or what is it that you can actually do to give yourself what you need. And then motivating. How can you motivate yourself with kindness, support, and understanding rather than criticism? So again, this is something about how can you create the discipline that you actually need to stay on track. Because when it comes to motivation and discipline, the two things are very much linked. The more that you can generate discipline in your life, the more likely you are. Just realised that there is, there's absolutely somebody else going to join us. Sorry guys, I thought there's somebody else trying to get on, but it's not. How can you be creating that discipline that you need? And discipline sometimes comes down to routines. And I know routines sound boring. routines are definitely in that yang space because it is very much acting out of the masculine, but structures and routines help get you where you need to go because you're going to be making sure that you're doing the same thing, keep it simple, and it's repeated. So is it your day, your week just needs more structure around it? So write down some of the answers to that and start to see what kind of flavor starts to come up. Okay, so now where we're at is we're actually up to the vision building aspect. So I want you to have a think about your intention for this year. Okay, have a think about what it is that ultimately you want to get out of this year. Your big goals, how you want to feel, how you'll know if you've actually achieved them, like what feeling are you really starting to seek, and write down some ideas. Okay, and you could write down some of these goals in different buckets. So it could be like your health and fitness bucket. It could be your family bucket. It could be your career bucket. You could write down, several different goals. Okay. So have a little bit of a think. And I'm going to just quickly find my vision for this year. As I said, I thought I included in this document, but I didn't. So sorry about that. So have a bit of a think about your goals, your vision. Okay, so my vision, where did Angie write it? So growing a successful business that's able to support my family, provide career opportunities to other women, and be transformational in empowering our community for the women that we serve. I want to be able to do this without compromising my own health, my ability to care and love my family, or my relationships with my husband, friends, and family. So that's like, I've kind of had a look at all of my goals and then I've joined them all together in a nice little sort of vision statement, if you will. And again, feel free to share that vision statement in the chat box, or if you're just starting to piece it out, that's okay. And then once you start to get some like things that you want to start to achieve for this year on your paper, the idea is that the things that you probably came up before with the yin and the yang, they're actually self-care practices and they're self-compassion practices. So what we're about to do is we're about to start to write down a whole bunch of different self-care activities, and you might have already written them down in that yin and yang activity sequence that we just did before. Is I want you to write down as many self-care practices that actually resonate with you that fit underneath different goals. So, or different categories. So category number one is maybe mental or personal health, emotional, which is spelt wrong, so I do apologize for that, physical health, spiritual health, and you might also like to add some other buckets there, which is professional, financial, or any other category that you think really is appropriate for your own circumstance. Okay, so write down those self-care practices. So looking at, which I'm just grabbing my notebook. So did you do these same activities? I wrote down my my categories. And I wrote down a bunch of self-care practices that sit underneath each that I really pulled from that yin and yang activity. So for emotional, scheduling more me time, morning journal routine, more time scheduling in yin exercise, physical, getting more support around me, a monthly massage, getting enough sleep, more focused training time, working one-on-one with a coach. For social, it was more time for friends and family, regular date nights, time away with family, managing time better. So I put down a whole bunch of self-care practices under each, okay? So have a little bit of a think of these self-care activities and the little buckets that they sit into. And then once you've got some self-care practices down, I want you to look back over it. And I want you to see if there is a common theme. And this is where you're going to pick one word for the year. And that one word should be something, I'm so sorry, I've just turned on the vacuums where I'm at. So I hope you can hear me okay. I want you to pick one word that you think really resonates with you and that is a common theme that you can really pull out. So my word for the year is invest, and it's about investing more time, more energy, more love to make me feel like a more whole person. So have a little bit of a think, wondering if Sadia, if you have a word for the year, or whether you're starting to notice a bit of a theme. Yeah, that's a good word. Self-care is a great word. Yeah. And you know what? You cannot make change without it. At the end of the day, if you're trying to get a goal, reach a goal, if you're not looking after yourself, it's just not going to be possible. Because at the end of the day, the goals that you're setting for yourself, the power in them is the way that they make you feel, not actually ticking them off. Because you could reach your goal and actually feel worse or feel no different. It's the process and the transformation that you go through on your way to get to the goal. That is where the reward actually sits. That's where the joy sits. And quite often we reach our goals that we thought were important, but we either don't take enough time to actually realize the process and how much we've changed in that time of actually trying to achieve them. So I love this. Okay. So from here, the next step is to actually create a vision board. This is where I am really excited. So from here, I am showing you my own personal vision board, and I'm going to explain to you how I set this up. And I'm going to encourage anyone that does this vision board activity, whether you're doing it now or whether you do it in your own time and you're watching this back, please share it with the community, because there is no right, there is no wrong. This is just the way that I've approached my vision board for this year, okay? And what I will do is I am going to actually share this link to share on social, copy link. I'm going to change the access and I'm going to copy the link, and I'm going to put this link in the chat box, and I will also share this link to anyone that's watching this back, so that if you want to use my template, like by all means you can. So the program that I'm in at the moment, it is Canva, and Canva is a really great design application that you can create all sorts of things. So if you've never used Canva before, it's an absolute game changer. Now, if you don't want to use the format that I've used, you create a log on and you go in and you literally type in vision board, and it will come up with a whole bunch of designs eventually. Yay, here we go. So there's lots and lots and lots of really pretty designs you guys can use. This is one that I picked. It's super, super easy and it's super, super simple, okay? But what I've done is I have obviously put the year in the middle, and I've put my word also in the middle. And then I've thought about like my major buckets, which for me, it's me and my career, my own personal fitness, my family, and my relationships. And what I love about using Canva to do this in is that in other ways of doing a vision board, you need to print off the photo and then you need to cut it out. So there's lots of different steps. With this one, you can upload your photos into it and then you can just drag it across. So what I've done is I've looked at the self-care practices that I wrote down for each one of those categories. My emotional bucket, my career bucket, my fitness bucket. I'm so sorry for that vacuum. I'm not sure what it's doing. Yeah, it's very annoying. I may go and tell them to stop. Sadia, can you still hear me okay? Oh, here we go. Thank you. Yeah, not annoying at all. So sorry, guys. So then what I've done is I've grabbed those self-care practices and I have reallocated them to different areas of my life that I think fit. So I've looked back through my notes and I've basically gone, okay, well, journaling, which bucket does that actually fit into? Now, it's really important that you don't try and do too many action steps for each goal, because otherwise, if you do too much, you end up doing nothing, okay? And in some ways, you're better off just going, well, what am I going to do in the next 90 days? And then I might do another goals and vision board for the next 90 days, because quite often we try and think too far ahead of ourselves, and that's when we are more likely to not action and actually get to our goals, because it gets too overwhelming. So I've gone through and I've written down 2 to 4 different action steps, and they are really, really, really practical. You've got to make sure that they're practical, because as I said, it's the daily action that we take that ultimately, and that self-care and the self-compassion exercises that ultimately will help us lead us to where we want to go. I'd love to know, Sadia, if you've got any questions. Oh, I'm glad that you can't hear the vacuum, because I feel like I'm literally shouting. So I definitely apologize for that. So from here, the first thing you need to do is to create your vision statement, all right? Vision statement of what do you want to achieve? What you want to feel for the year. Step number 2 is to write down self-care practices for every realm of your life. Ooh. Step number 3 is pick up on a common theme. So as I said, for me, it's about invest. All right. For you, it might be about something else. 4, it's about getting creative and reallocating self-care practices on the page in a way that feels good. Okay. Now, step number 5 in all of this process is you've got to print it out. Okay. You must print it out, because if you're not there looking at this every single day, it's going to be something that you're going to very easily forget. Now, one thing that I didn't do in here is I didn't explicitly write out my goals of what it is that I really want to achieve. So you can definitely write down like your goals in this sort of picture careers, so picture / subheading section. But really, again, it's the action steps and the daily practices, the self-care practices, the self-compassionate exercises, that's where the magic is happening. Okay. So I think we're going to wrap it up from here, because the idea is that you can spend, you know, a good sort of 15 to 20 minutes actually creating your own vision board and really bringing it to life. So my vision board isn't quite done yet. As I said, I probably spent maybe 10 minutes actually putting this all together once I'd done all the thinking around it. That I'd probably want to add a few more graphics and make it really pretty, maybe change the colors a little bit. Because ultimately, as I said, I'm going to be looking at this for the rest of the year. So it's going to be my little blueprint and a nice little reminder of what I want to feel. So I might just finish off with maybe just a little bit of a share from you, Sadia. Like, what do you feel like you got most out of this, like, very quick 40-minute time slot on this webinar? What do you feel like was your biggest takeaway? Biggest thing I got out of this session was that we all definitely need to stop and reflect. Something that I have never done in the past, but so useful to move forward and onward to the goals. And just to check in with yourself. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? This process never stops. Like, you should never stop really trying to learn and unpack more about yourself, because quite often we're operating out of our subconscious and the default mode that we use on a daily basis. It's a very hard thing to get unstuck from if we're not consciously aware of it to start off with. So the more you can be really introspective on the way you're thinking, you can really start to unpack the actions that you're taking every single day. So thank you so much for joining me. And if you are watching this back and you really enjoyed it, please let me know that you actually watched it and you listened back. I really enjoyed putting this session together for you guys. So I can't wait to see you around the studio. But that's all from me, guys. Have a fantastic day, and I hope you're all doing beautifully well. Yeah, no worries. I'll see you later. Bye.